Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm here in Holland with Dan Bensky in the second module of the Engaging Vitality Seminar. Hello, Dan.
Hello, I'm glad
First
to
of
be
all,
here.
it's a pleasure meeting you
Thank
and
you.
an honor. And thank you very much for your time. And you know, in the Israeli Chinese medicine community, you are known for the materia medica and formulas and strategies. Bensky from the herbs. But most people don't know that you're a doctor in osteopathy and you practice acupuncture.
Yes, a lot, yeah.
So can you please tell us about your journey into Chinese medicine?
Okay, well, I will tell you, you can edit out what isn't interesting. I got interested in things Chinese as a young boy, like 11, 12, by chance. It's a long story, but I got interested. And so when it was time for me to go to university, I decided I would study Chinese. And I'm not very good at languages. And so after a couple years, I dropped out of college and I went to Taiwan to learn. This is in 1972. And while I was there, I got very ill with a really bad infectious disease. I don't know the centigrade, but about 103, 104 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
And I saw all sorts of different Western style doctors and Western doctors. And after 2 or 3 weeks, I was worse and worse. I was maybe 30 kilos, 30 less than I am now.
Wow.
I was coughing up all sorts of very bizarre stuff. And ended up, someone said, well, you should go see Chinese doctor. And I thought, like, they still have that? I said, but I don't need folk medicine. I'm like sick. And so I said I had nothing else to do, so I went to see the pharmacist down the street, which was, he had a dirty, dusty herb shop with, walrus penises and all this crazy stuff there. And he gave me something that at the time I thought was like yard waste or something. And ended up, my landlady cooked it up for me. It was like unbelievably stinky and
Disgusting. Yeah.
like the river Styx. And I drank it, and actually after 3 packets, I was completely fine, except for being still quite tired. So I thought, oh, this should be interesting. And so I started looking for a place to study, which was very difficult in that time. And I went to see in Taiwan maybe 100 places. And in that process, I met Ted Kapchuk. And so he ended up going to Macau. So I ended up going there also. And then after I finished in Macau, I went back and worked with acupuncturists and herbalists in Taiwan for about another 6 months. And then when I decided to go back to the United States, I went to Korea and Japan for about 3 months. So I came back in 76.
In Taiwan, actually, you met Master Dong?
I went to his clinic.
Really?
He's one of the places that I went to check out. I wasn't impressed myself at the time. So, he still had a clinic there.
Amazing.
Yeah, so, yeah, it was amazing. So then I came back and I finished college. And again, by chance, I heard about osteopathy. Actually, one of my future teachers wrote an article in a journal that doesn't exist anymore called the American Journal of Chinese Medicine, where they took 3 patients and they did an osteopathic structural exam on them. And then they had an acupuncturist come in and treat them. And then they did the exam again. And they noticed that most of the structural findings related to the person's chief complaint had improved greatly. And what really struck me was 2 things. One, it was just a very matter of fact. It wasn't like, it was just like, oh, that's interesting. It wasn't, in the 70s, people were either, this is from God or this is crap, right? It was just very matter of fact. And then also, I didn't understand a lot of the terms. Like they talked about the sphenoid bone. I had no idea where that was.
We're a bit busy. Can you hold?
Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So that was interesting. And then, so I checked it out, and again, by chance, I ended up meeting DOs who actually did acupuncture also. And so then I went to school, and I had great luck with finding teachers. And then when I started working, it became obvious that the stuff that the osteopathy is talking about and the stuff from Chinese medicine is very compatible. And so I started working on that.
And you do it together in the clinic? You work
Yes.
together with the osteopathy and acupuncture
That's
and
correct.
herbs?
That's
You
right.
integrated everything.
That's right.
And can you tell us about Engaging Vitality, how it was born?
Sure. So I've been trying to, one of the background steps is one of the things that I don't like about either osteopathy or Chinese medicine is that in both these medicines, people are always reinventing the wheel because people who learn something through their practice don't share it. And there's lots of examples of this.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, I don't want to contribute to that. So maybe in the late 80s, early 90s, I started trying to teach this kind of palpation to acupuncturists. And I think one of the first times was here in Holland in 1992 or 3. And I also, I had, Chip Chase was someone I had known from Boston. He had his own path, and I also taught to him and with him. And then, so over the 90s, we were both working in different ways to try to work this out. And then maybe 10, 12 years ago, we decided we should package it. We come up with a package that we can share with people, and a more, instead of just an ad hoc seminar, but kind of have a curriculum. And I think the first time we did that was for Volkerscheid in England, maybe 2010. That's around the time that the term engaging vitality came in. The publicity naming type stuff, that was Chip's, but we had different names before. And so since then, we've been trying to work on how to communicate to people who do East Asian medicine how this kind of palpation can not only help you treat the people in front of you better, but help you, the engaging vitality. The vitality is not only the patient's vitality, but it's the vitality of the East Asian medical traditions. And so when you start to feel things, you can feel what dried fluids are like, you can feel phlegm, you can feel liver qi constraint. That, for us, makes it more meaningful. And one of the real funny things that happens all the time is we'll figure something out, and both Chip and I read Chinese okay, and so we would figure something out, and then realize, oh yeah, this guy in the Song Dynasty, he wrote the same thing.
Talked about it already.
Talked about it already. But I think again, that's that sense of engaging, where so that's what that's how it came about.
And actually, the system, you can integrate it in all styles of acupuncture, right?
I believe so. I mean, I think if you do a form of acupuncture that doesn't include any feedback, then it would be hard to use. But I don't know anybody who does that. But I think it is just information. It's not a style. And as we've used that information, it's changed the way that we do things. But it may not change the way other people do things the same way. And I mentioned, like in class yesterday, about needle manipulation.
Yes.
I spent hundreds of hours on learning how to do needle manipulation, and only to realize for myself, not for other people, that doesn't really make any difference because of getting the feedback from the body as well as feedback from improvement in people's symptoms.
Can you talk about the core fundamentals of the system?
Yeah, I think the core fundamentals are a few different things. One is we have a postulate that anything in the East Asian medicine world about physiology or pathology should have a palpatory referent. And if that's the case, and you can feel it, it will give you a lot more information about the state of the body. That's, I think, the main takeaway. The other thing is that certainly acupuncture is this call and response form of medicine, that sticking a needle in someone is not a treatment. Cupping someone is not a treatment. Getting a response from the body by needling them or cupping is the treatment. And so you want to be able to tune in and see how the body is responding. And it's best to be able to do that while you're treating people so that you can change. I think those are the two main things. And so we've taken the stuff that we teach, the vast majority of it is just adapting things that people teach in osteopathic schools to Chinese medicine. A couple of things, we've taken those principles and made them up ourselves, like we're going to do channel. That's using something that I learned from Jean-Pierre Barral and applying it to acupuncture in a different way. So I think that's the core. And then once you start doing that, you know, we've come up with, in our practices, certain kinds of things work. And so point location is determined by a response. So in my own opinion, the response that the patient feels is not that useful for lots of reasons.
You mean the dead chi?
The dead chi
sensation of
the
chi?
sensation is not important to me. I mean, it's like everything, it could be wrong, but that it's much better if I don't depend on them to tell me. Particularly, you know, in America, people don't like pain. They're going to tell you whatever.
In Israel also.
Yeah, they'll tell you whatever they want. And also, I think, to me, for many, many problems, it's also like the needle manipulation. You can spend a lot of time on it. You can do all these different things with it. But when I said, oh, when I do that kind of manipulation and get that kind of sensation, what's the effect on the patient? And sometimes it was like, you know, they have to come back all the time. They feel great, and then 3 days later, they don't feel so good. And that's not, I'd much rather they get off the table and think I'm a quack, and 3 days later, the problem's gone. And so I think using things that we feel in the patient are easier to get to that result.
Thank you very much.
Okay?
And I hope to see you one day in Israel.
Okay. Thanks again. Thanks for coming.